And hello and good evening or morning, afternoon, depending on where you are when you're watching this. But hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Casual Conversations. We are on episode 36 of this. So, this is now the 36th person that I've spoken to on the show. This is the mayamada show where each month I speak with a different comic creator about their journey and what goes into the craft of making their comics. So the whole idea is about showcasing the human being behind the art as we discover each person's story. I'm the mayamada co-founder, Nigel, and I am talking with JoveGuille, which I'm hoping I pronounced right, but correct me if not, cartoonist and author of the Geordie and Oslo comic strips. Gilliam, how are you doing? And did I pronounce that right? Or how
Hi,
far off
Nigel.
was I?
Yes.
Close
The
enough.
first one you almost had it, JoveGuille, but it's fine.
JoveGuille.
I have a confusing artistic name, yeah. But you got my name right. I'm Guillem, and it's great to be here, by the way, for the
Cool.
second time. So
Yeah,
thank you for
yeah.
having me.
No, I appreciate it. Gilliam, I can do. I've got some practice with that, so I've got that. But yeah, no, and you were with us with our games live stream actually. So for anyone who caught that, was that a couple or maybe like a month ago or a few weeks ago?
I think it was, yeah, right a month
Yeah,
ago.
so mid-April. So yeah, you were with us on that. So there is some video game crossover here. So we will actually talk some video games a bit later because it'll be very relevant to what you're working on in general. So looking forward to that and seeing how that is progressing. But before we get to that, how are you doing? How's it going?
I'm pretty good. I'm just working a lot and trying to get stuff. My work consists in getting stuff that is not drawing out of the way of drawing. And I think that's
Right.
most artists have that. So anything that is not drawing is work, and then drawing is just meditation, I guess.
I
So,
feel that.
so I'm good. This is this is not. I don't see this as a task. So this is like a relaxing
Mm,
after working a little bit, and then I'll go back to working. So I'm
yeah.
already on a relaxed mode. I did everything that I had to do today, which is fine.
Nice.
But I'm good. How are you yourself?
Yeah, I'm the same actually. It's like there's certain things that you try and get out of the way before you do the things that you actually want want to do, and I feel that's the nature of any
Correct.
kind of like independent creative, where there's a specific thing that you like or multiple things that you like doing, but in order to do all that, you have to do a bunch of other things that sometimes you don't want to do. Like I had to
Correct.
do taxes or returns a couple of weeks ago, and I always leave it to the
Exactly.
last moment, which
Exactly.
is not good. I'm sure my accountant hates
Not
that,
convenient.
but yeah, at some point it's got to get done.
Yeah, I
So
actually don't have an accountant, and you just reminded me. I need to write that down because
yeah,
that's also my list.
yeah, I was getting an accountant.
Okay,
We
but
when we started the business a long time ago, but I think yeah, the first year we were late with our accounts and got fined.
mhm,
And since then, just get an accountant is cheaper.
I agree. I mean, I
Yeah,
should probably do that, but
yeah. There we go.
now
All
I'm
right,
managing.
we've helped you out. It's not even 5 minutes, and we've helped you helped you with your business. So anyone watching, if you don't have an accountant, go get an accountant. But so yeah, what would be good to know and hear more about you because we've only just met recently. So I know a bit about your work,
Mhm.
and I met your team at Gamescom last summer. So we can talk a bit about that. But what struck me, and I said it at the time, is that as someone who makes comics, walking around the Gamescom floor, seeing a game that's very influenced by a comic at the time I was not familiar with. So I definitely want to hear more about that. And then hearing like there's a whole kind of like legacy to the comic behind it. Like you're the creator and the artist. You're artist and writer,
Correct. Yeah.
correct? Artist and
Yeah.
writer.
I don't have a writer.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So
I
you
guess
do.
the origins of my comic strip comes from the time where I was living in the US in San Francisco, and I started reading the biography of Charles Schultz, the Peanuts creator.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I always liked Peanuts, kinda, but in the Spanish version, it was pretty horrible because of how it was translated. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying that because it had a literal translation. It was very hard to get the jokes across, and it just didn't speak to me as a child, as in other comics where I loved and thought funny. So in me, it started this concept of, okay, what do we have in my language? I mean, not just to be like, oh, all about my language, and which is important. It's important to defend each other's, each language. But it didn't come from that. It came from, how do I express myself better? How do I transmit not even my culture from my region, but my culture as how different I am from my peers around me. Like I don't like football, or I'm not the classic cat one. I don't fit in a
Okay.
stereotypical
Because very passionate
frame.
about
So
football there.
you are, well, but in
No,
here,
but where you are, I
one
mean,
belt.
I am as well. But where
Oh
you
yeah,
are, I know there's very like
oh
passionate
yeah,
and very
yeah.
cultural
There's
identity.
more football. Yes, like if you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the newscast, it's gonna be 80% football and then a bit of the news, which was funny. I mean, not to go into a tangent here, but it was super funny when we had the pandemic and they had all the empty space. They didn't know what to talk about, and then they started talking about how footballers were living the pandemic, and it was just like so silly. And like they were just telling you how many stuff from football was canceled from the pandemic. Anyway,
Okay, right.
that tells you a bit of my point of view. Like nothing against playing the sport, which is awesome. It's about like watching other millionaires running. Anyway, I'm very different from my peers, and I have this inner world, and I think every artist kind of like wants to get that out of the way. And I felt like I was 20 and I had so much to show, but my drawings kind of sucked for what I had in my brain, and what I was seeing was not as good. And I noticed Peanuts started drawing one way, like Snoopy and the characters, and then the end result was different, like over the years. So I started drawing a
Right.
comic strip just to practice. And I did the characters because I had this little drawing I made for my cousin as a present one day. And I remembered like she asked me, oh, if you're gonna draw something, like don't just give me a drawing, like give me a couple stories. So I created a couple strips for her, and then I took them back like 5 years later or something just to do this practice, but it evolved and evolved, and it came to be what it was. And then the first book I did was mainly my idea of like, hey, if child shows could do it, why not in Catalonia? I can do the same. I can go to newspapers and ask for jobs. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to get everything I've done this year, which was pretty, I was pretty happy of how it evolved. And in
Yeah.
1 year
And
only,
where were you
I
showing them
could
at this
tell
time?
I
At
was
this
showing
point?
them nowhere. I was
Okay.
just inking them at home and stuff. And then I do remember starting the website or the blog or something, but I was just doing them for myself. And then I wanted to put them in a portfolio or something
Yeah.
and print something to show newspapers or show anywhere. But in the process of that, when I was kind of just printing something, I realized it's super expensive. So I wanted
Yeah.
to just print something. And I figured, you know what? If I'm going to go through the effort, why not? That's when crowdfunding started globally as a phenomenon. And I thought, okay, if I was seeing stuff that was similar to mine, I thought, okay, this I could actually, get the money, people would buy it, and then just get my book so I can show publishers or newspapers. And that's how it spawned. Like I put it all together. I actually have it here. I did this first edition of this
Okay.
comic book, which it has the first comic strips. I could open it, but it's mostly the same as this one. It has the comic strip, and then I subtitled it in English, and it was just a collection of, I don't know. I feel like most things I do are to have it as a consumer. Like, oh, I would like to have
Right.
this and
You'd like to see this,
have it
so
as a
let me
book.
make it.
Yeah. So anyway, that went really well. I didn't really get any jobs on the newspapers at the time. I did get a job on the newspaper after a while, but not because of this. This actually put me on the spot to sell the book and stuff like this, and it was nice, but nothing that we could consider famous by an
Right.
extent.
So you made a whole
And
book
that was
before you got like wider distribution.
correct, yeah.
Right.
And the distribution was done by my uncles because my grandfather had a distributing company, kind of like he worked by himself, and he was just like helping publishers to connect with bookstores. And I was
Okay.
lucky enough that I put a little logo with my grandma's name on it, last name, so that the bookstores would grab it, and put it on their stores. Because if you go with anything that you self-publish and it doesn't have a logo, they're not very keen on having it, and you
Right.
you should have also the
Yeah, you need that logo and
ISBN
the
number.
barcode. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Logo, ISBN, yeah.
So because of my background, I had done graphic design before. I was able to, self edit it, and it was very. I mean, I'm not saying that this is the best editing, but it has basic, all right graphic design. I would say it's not, it's not crazy, but self-publishing sometimes can transform into something like having like bad design, and it's we have to be careful. Looking back, I'm not super thrilled on the cover, and I'm not thrilled that people cannot read my name. But anyway,
But that's
self-publishing
always the
has
way,
these
right?
things.
Yeah, because like when I look
Yeah,
back, this is why
yeah, we learn.
I don't look at our past comics, because as soon as you look at it, you go, oh, I could do this better. There's a mistake here I didn't catch. So that's like the natural thing, right? Just to criticize your own work.
It is, and in fact, while I was doing the first one, I thought I'm just gonna make it small and have the best ones so I can get picked up by newspapers. But in the process, I realized, okay, if I'm just selling a book with that, there's not enough content. And then when I wanted to put more content, I realized I had to go back into my previous year where I had been learning. And I decided, okay, my first book is just going to be the process of it. And so I got the best ones from that year. And you can tell from the beginning to the end, you can see the evolution of the drawing. And I kind of like that because usually artists get this kind of editions when they're super, old and about to die. And,
Sure.
look back at the drawings. But I was like, okay, let me show you my worst drawings and let me see how I processed. And then let's get out of the way. So I'm very proud of the first one. It's almost out of print. And it's a kind of a bestseller. And it's still to this day, like people love it. And it has a very good quality printing.
Yeah, it
The
looks
other
like
ones
it.
I did were a bit cheaper for
Yeah.
consumers, to be able to say, okay, I'll get this one is smaller and not as,
Okay.
but as,
And
it doesn't have hardcover. And then I
what year
also,
was
in the
it?
middle, oh, sorry, go ahead.
What year was the first one? Because you
Oh,
mentioned
this is a long time ago.
newspapers a
I
couple
think
times, and so
first one
yeah.
is, yeah. So this is 2015, I believe. And then I did one in the middle, which is this one is a graphic novel about police in my hometown being bad to people, which is not fun. But this was around the time that the US. So this is 2016. So 2015, then this one 2016, and this was around the time where we had George Floyd being
Right.
murdered in the US, and
Yep.
there was not a lot of talk in my community, and I was very angry about it, and especially because in Spain we have something called the gag order, the gag law, and if
Yeah.
you haven't heard of it it's a law that forbids you from recording any police interaction. So it got me thinking, like, if this is happening in the US and we know it because they're recording it, what's happening here must be the same.
Right.
So anyway, I went out to think about the story that I could do, and I know there were some cases, and then I actually went out. The story is about this lady who goes out while at work. She works at night cleaning the city, and then I went out with these people one night, sort of like an investigation cartoonist, and And they told me themselves, like my story was kind of short for what was happening. Like they've seen horrible things, and what was done by police to young people who were drunk, or immigrants. We have a lot of immigrants in my city, and they're treated very poorly. And I don't know, it was just a nice breather from being cute and having funny cartoons, and then putting this out, putting it out of the way in my rage, and then
Yeah.
going back to
It's like
cartoons. But then I did this one
cartoon
in
journalism.
2017. It felt that way. I mean, it wasn't when I asked that, because I had like a friend who was working doing that at night, and I asked him, could I come? And then he asked his boss, and his boss was like, what? This is weird, but okay, you can go. So I went out with them on the truck, and my initial idea was like, let me see if I can find a truck and stuff. My initial idea was just to get the drawings of what they were doing and how the truck was looking and stuff like this. That's kind of what I wanted, and I got that by being there and sketching. But then I got some stories from them and how they treated and talked to each other and stuff, which was very, very nice. And from that on, I did the story, and it's very, very short, but it was nice. It was,
Yeah.
I don't know, not a
That's a
bestseller, but yeah, at all.
that's an
But
interesting
it's
way to make use of comics, because we have a group here in the UK, the Comics Cultural Impact Collective, so CCIC, and they're working on like essentially lobbying the government here for better representation of comics when it comes to like funding and comics as a career path. And one of the many good points they make is that comics, because I feel, and I wonder if it's the same where you are. I feel comics here in the West can be seen largely as like a for kids thing. So that was just a
yeah,
funny kind of thing, like just for kids, nothing more than that. And it's like missing out on the potential for its ability to make complex, sometimes often challenging topics accessible. So accessibility. So something like what you've just shown there, which I didn't even know you had, is like that's quite a heavy topic. But in making it a
yeah.
comic, did you find the reception of the issue was like people became more aware of it, even though you said it wasn't a massive seller? But for those that did read it, did they learn something?
I think I think people did. There's also an introduction by an economist from Spain that he was very generously. He wrote it for me for this edition. It was very nice, and I think that kind of educated a little bit. Um, I sadly the people who bought it, they were already inclined into that position.
Right.
When they saw the cops being the bad ones in the comic, then they bought it immediately because there's like
Okay.
an underground culture about it.
Sure.
So it's more, I call it my punk comic. But when I first launched it, it was a year after the first one, and in the first one there was a really nice reception, and the city hall kind of helped me and stuff. So for the second one, they didn't really ask questions. I said, "Hey, I'm launching, I'm releasing a new one this year. Could you help me with the same?" Because I did an exhibit for the first one, and then I did an exhibit for the second one. I had sketches and a small gallery, but it was nice. The funny story I'm trying to get out is that there was this city hall official that had he kind of was a friend of mine, and he had like an official position. So when he came without knowing what it was, and after like looking around and seeing all the cops being the bad guys, he kind of like just kind of left
That close,
and
yeah.
said, oh, I have to go, because apparently he either was going or had come back from like a city police department talks or
Right, right.
something, and he was like
Okay.
really, he didn't want to get
Yeah,
near
conflict of
this at all.
interest.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but to go back to your question, the answer is yes. Like I feel like the culture has changed a little bit from when it came out, and it was like a very niche thing to today. I think people are more aware, but obviously it doesn't have to do anything by my comic, because of my comic, but it's a testament of what I was thinking at the time, and what I
Sure.
also think now, and it's a testament of what was happening then and probably is happening now. So, and to be said, like, oh, why would you do that? It's because I crowdfunded the first book. The I didn't spend money on creating it, so there was extra money from the people who paid to make the first one. They also, they obviously had their comic, but I still everything was benefit for me. So I reused that money to just print another one, and
Right.
that happened again on the third one, which is the slim one. That's why it's slim, because that's all it got from the money left. So it was a nice thing, and I recommend it to just crowdfund to publish a book, get it out there, and try to move it around. And then sadly, after this one, which was so 2015, 2016, 2017, I was kind of, it would seem like I was in a row, but then I started I started the video game, and then my life kind of changed. We can see some illustrations here. Like I was already like doing backgrounds for the video game
Oh wow. Yeah.
when I was making this book, and I put it, in between this. Um, so I'm just kind of waiting to finish the video game and get back on publishing. I really want to do another graphic novel, even if it's short. I like the idea of self-publishing. I think people respond to it. I don't mind if I don't get published by anybody. If I can afford it, I'm just going to print it and take it around, and we'll see. I really enjoy it. And yeah, but
That's
I don't
cool.
have the time to finish the game,
I can
to
imagine
do it yet. I have to.
it's a lot of work. So with the we'll get to the game as well. I just want to get people to understand the Geordie and Oslo comic. Can you give us the background to that, the story? So we've heard the sort of story of you making it,
Oh,
but
yes, of course.
what is it? Who
Sorry.
who are the
Yes, that's true.
characters, and what's the world that you're building there?
That's true. So I was coming from the concept of having, like I mentioned, like having like the peanuts in Catalan version, or having like my own expression of it, and also like cabin on hops and Mafalda in Spanish. I was trying to like have this couple of characters that were in a newspaper and doing their own thing, and then I kind of reuse these characters that are inspired by the Saint George concept, like the knight and the dragon and stuff, which is it's also same as in England. Like Saint George is very important
Yeah.
in Catalonia, so it was a no brainer. Like it was good for it was something that people recognize. Like, oh, it's Saint George as a kid. So Jordi is like a little kid who plays to be knight. He's also, I guess, he's the one that has the most of me. He's outspoken. He's not super smart, but he is very different from his culture around it, and so are his friends. But they have their inner world with their imagination, and they play a lot and stuff. So it's mainly Jordi, the little kid who plays the knight, and then Oslo, his best friend, the dragon, and then there's Sigrid, and then there's Nietzsche, and then there's all these other kind of characters that I have. We have Noam Chomsky, which which we asked him, and he loved the idea.
Oh, you actually
We
asked him?
have sort of the yeah. I sent him years ago. I sent him an email, and he responded like, "It sounds like a great idea." Like, yeah. I think he was like, yeah, sure.
So what does he
I'm
do
not
in the
gonna
comic?
stop you, but I
That's quite
he I
random.
so I try not to make him talk. Yeah, I try not to make him talk because I wouldn't want to put words into what he says. But
Right.
he's just around. He's just Oslo's friend, and he's just around there, and the kids ask him questions, and he just hangs out. I think that there might be some, but he just hangs out. He just, I don't know.
Fair enough.
I I
Fair enough.
wanted to I wanted to make a statement and be like, have this important person like be in the comic, and whatever helps to make people know about him, and if that's what I can do, then I'll do it. And it's, I don't know.
So you sound like
Yeah.
you've got a quite an even though the comic itself feels like so that there's a term like slice of life. So it's not necessarily like a wide ranging narrative. It's just they're just doing stuff on a day to day. But then it sounds like
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, apologies.
yeah,
Correct.
and then
Correct.
it sounds like with
Yes,
Noam
they
Chomsky in there, there's like an activist element to it? Is that the idea for you?
I think so. I think it was more about having him there, and then if people want to ask questions and wonder who it is and stuff, and then they will get, if people just look him up on the internet and see what he has to say, then they'll get on it. Like it wasn't like being, I don't know how to say it. Like I didn't want to advertise it
Right.
like here's where I think and stuff. But in the background, kind of like things happen,
Sure.
and make this normal, like the normal thing, because it's not normal to see him on TV. Like people
No.
don't talk. He's the most cited and most important intellectual, but he's not around. So for me, it's kind of putting stuff on my comics. I kind of want to make it seem like, oh, this is the normal thing. Why not? And and he's there because of it. And same with other stuff. Like when I don't know, I try to like make out new words and try to see if they catch on. I try to, I don't know.
No,
Yeah, I think that's where, yeah,
it
trying
sounds really
to create
interesting.
my own inner world. Yeah.
Yeah, and because you've been, so you mentioned like starting the book like around 2015 and progressing. So is this now in newspapers, and is newspapers like a, in terms of getting the comic out to an audience from where you are like geographically, is that a big outlet for you, like newspapers, or is it like the book and pushing the book, going to conventions or fairs? How do you get your work out now?
So I'm still struggling with that because my Instagram account got shut down last year, and then I had to make a new one. And with the newspapers, I've been working there like almost 7 years now, I think. And it was funny. It's funny how I always work for like 2 weeks intensely to look up for new newspapers, and then I kind of, it's so exhausting. Then I kind of retrieve back, and then I try it a few years
Yeah.
later. So with the newspaper I work on now, um, I've been working as a 3D animator for, I don't know, for 10 years now or more. I also worked in England, um, and because I have this job, I couldn't. It was either like this job or the other job, and I've been kind of doing the newspaper as a side thing, and in a way where it doesn't pay me enough that I have to tax it. Do you know what I mean? So
Right. Yeah.
now,
Yeah. Yeah.
coming next year, the idea is that I'm gonna try to find enough newspapers to just say, okay, goodbye animation. Though
Transition.
I love
Sure.
animation, it's time to, yeah, transition completely. So I guess the short answer is I haven't worked enough on my audience, and the same that happened with the comic has been happening with my expansion. Like I
Yeah.
kind of was so centered on the video game that I didn't work on it. But now with the video game, we have to find that audience, and I need to
Yeah.
also
You
find that
have to. Yeah.
audience. So
That's
I've been
important.
going to book fairs. I've been trying to do everything I can to expand, and we'll see. I think
Okay.
when people see it, when people get exposed and they read, just if they read one, they kind of find it funny and they buy the book. So
Yeah.
um, I think it's going to happen. It's just very, very slow.
Yeah. No, I know the feeling,
Yeah.
because we made our first comic like maybe just before you, like a decade ago, and like we never thought about or thought that much about audience building, because of the way we started. It wasn't really, yeah, we're just like, we're going to do this thing, so we did it, and it's like, oh, you have to build an audience. And then just thinking about that, and it's quite a difficult thing, particularly with like comics, because I don't know if you found, it's like, people, when people think comics, they think Marvel, DC, and maybe Image Comics. If you're
Yeah.
anime and manga fan, then you've
Correct.
got your Shonen, One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto. So people know, they know what they
Yeah.
know, and I think that's what I found in the early days, where people were very like tied to what they know. And if you come with an original comic, just immediately like, who is this? I don't know what this is. So you have to do that extra work to convince people. I guess that is the word, convince people that they should care, they should stop and actually read your thing. Have you found that journey in terms of trying to convince people to be like, okay, not that you're not going to read Spider-Man, obviously everyone's going to read Spider-Man, everyone's going to read Batman, but you're also going to take a look at this that you've just discovered?
I, yeah, I totally agree with your point. I think at some stages of this process, I've gotten resentful of how comic book stores would treat me, and how the audience would do it, and how what you described, like people would just be so fanatical and spend so much money on something that comes from Japan, or other things that or mangas, or Marvel, and not, like, say they love comics but then see your stuff and then just walk by. And it's been hard to just get to a point where you focus on the good things, like don't focus on comic stores that don't have your book, focus on the ones that love your book and help you out, and then they ask you to go sign, and start with those. And then another thing in my region, that is very similar to what you're describing, with because that's one part of it. It is true that that's happening, and that's also what's destroying, in my opinion, the comic book industry, in at least in Catalonia and Spain. And it's not happening so much in France, for example. Like they have a big culture in comics.
Yeah, yeah,
As you were mentioning, they invest in comics, and
yeah.
that's not happening so much in there. But here, they saw the big buck on, you licensing Marvels and all that stuff and translating them, blah blah blah, blah. And it's gotten to a point where now the monopoly is there, and people are getting bored of that, and then it's just collapsing, because that's all they got for 10 years or more, 20 years. And I think that's in the market concept, yeah, that's a problem. But cultural problem, I agree with you. And I also want to point out that people here do love the regional characters and regional comics and stuff, but there's so few, and they're all really old, and sadly, like the good comic book artists that were in Catalan and they did the little thing, they're all dying. I'm sorry to say, but it's
Wow.
the truth. Like I met one,
They're literally dying out.
I don't know if yeah, I don't know if he did a blurb in the end. Did he do a blurb? No, he didn't do a blurb on mine. But I met one, for example, years ago, and he was super nice. And hold on, this one's gonna die. And he started the same as me. Like all these people who people love now and get attention from the media, they were once just struggling and getting help by publishing here and there and then. And I feel like because people don't know something, it's very hard to convince them. So it's happening in both sides. Like the Marvel stuff is what they want, and then if you are not famous here already, or you're not 80 and I've seen your comic books all the time, it's hard for me to get into it. But I think it's going to change. I hope.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Sorry,
I
I just rambled there,
recently.
but you.
That's cool. I recently went to a comics fair here in South London, and it was so specifically a kids comics fair. So the audience was like all kids and obviously adults, like parents and stuff. And it's probably I think maybe the first time I've been to a like exclusively like a kids fair, and it went pretty well. I mean, I've been to much bigger conventions and made way less in terms of like not only like selling books but just general engagement. Like people were interested, so I felt there was much less convincing to do because it was just there, and the kids they enjoy reading. But off the back of it, I was thinking actually, it's not necessarily that the I feel like looking at the next generation, it's not necessarily like we don't like comics. They like comics. Like I saw that. It's just getting them, and they're quite open to like because there was no Marvel, DC, or Image, things like that. It was just all independent creators, and just people were taken to it. So I feel when it comes to outreach, and I haven't figured this out yet for our brand, but there's definitely people that are interested in comics. It's like how do you get to them? And I guess social media is one, but I find even like the events, the in-person events and fairs are maybe a better way for building an audience. I don't know what's worked for you in. I mean, do you do like events locally, or do you have to go out to Spain or
I
Europe?
do. So for now, because of my books only being in Catalan, and then they also have these two have subtitles in English.
Yeah,
I only
yeah, I
do
noticed that.
local events. But when I did go to Spain, I think a month or two ago, and I brought them, people kind of liked it. They were like, "Oh well, I don't speak Catalan, but I do know English, so I'm just gonna buy it." So to going back to your question, I don't really have an answer, but I have a hinge and I have a feeling that it's all based on putting all the quality you can on it, and
Right.
that's helped for me because when you're in a book fair, I can be more outspoken and be like, hey, come and get in the book and stuff, and I can try to grab people's attention. But at one point, every time, you kind of get exhausted, and then you
Yeah.
ended up just doing this and just giving them the book when people go by. And that's the point. When you give them the book, because the quality is there and you know that it's funny and you know that they're gonna laugh, it's kind of like a relief because you hand them something that you really trust. You're not selling a used car that you know it's gonna fail them. You're selling your own product, and it's to me that's the only feeling I got, that because I do my best and I have faith in what I do and the drawings are okay, it's going to work because it's a good product, and it's very hard to escape doing what sells, and myself too. Like like with the fairs, like everybody was selling tote bags and I was like, I'm not going to do that, but eventually I had to do it. Hold on, just gonna die.
Yeah. We sold some tote bags as well. Actually, it makes sense because people use it and they reuse it. You've got something in the book because I've been showing it on stream about optimism and the idea that optimism is a strategy for making a better future, which is a quote from the book. So, do you find yourself like a, an optimistic person?
An optimistic person.
I lost your audio.
Oh, hold on.
Ah, there you go. I can hear
Can
you.
you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, my headphones might die. Sorry, the battery ran
Okay.
out faster than I thought. So I don't know if it just goes away. I do believe in your optimism for sure, and I think the therapy that comics give you are about that. Like you put bad stuff away, and then you try to make positive things. So yeah, we wouldn't be like positivism is what moves you. Like if even if you have to kind of cheat yourself about being over optimistic, it kind of helps your brain create that feeling of, okay, it's going to be all right. That's why people say it's going to be all right all the time, because it is about functioning. And if it's practical, like if you have an impulse of doing stuff because it's going to be better, that's the only thing you can do. It's just be optimistic, because if not, then your brain shuts down and your body doesn't move.
Yeah. No,
I do believe it.
it's a nice quote. It's a nice quote. So I saw that and I thought,
Yeah, even in times like this, like these days, it's just awful. Like it's hard to be optimistic, but we have to be optimistic, even if there's people who have a lot of hate speech and it seems like it's horrible. We have to have faith in those who will change their tune, and people who will find ways to get to that people and change their minds and make a better world. Otherwise, we're all screwed in a way.
yeah. So,
Yeah, let me
so,
quickly show you. I have I brought down an example of
oh, nice.
the classic comic strip. So I would do this in ink, try to ink it, kind of this format, and then just put it on the iPad and color it up because it's the quickest.
Nice.
You know, I think everybody does it digitally these days. You know, you just drop the bucket.
Yeah. But is that your process? You do it by hand, or is that just the
These
early
days,
work?
because I travel a lot, I probably will just get any paper and pen and
Right.
to cut out the sketch and then take a picture, which is sad because this is my spot. Like when I'm doing this, it's zen. I don't know. I don't know how to. Everybody has their thing, I guess. But to me, I space out, and I prefer paper. But if I'm not home and I have to do it on the run, I just use my iPad and
Right.
draw it there. And people often ask me like, where do you get the ideas? I don't think there's anything magical about it, but I do believe that my brain kind of once a week gets an idea because it's the muscle memory where it's like, okay, you know, Sunday's coming up and it's Friday.
Yeah, time.
What about
Let
this?
me think. Let me think of something. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a week is easy. So what's hard is every day, and that would be my dream job, to challenge myself to do it every day. But no
every
niche
day.
paper wants that.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, doing
Yeah, that would
anything
be
every
awesome.
day is a challenge, especially something creative. Yeah, it's good challenge to set yourself. So I wanted to ask about the video game because, like I said at the beginning, that's how I discovered what you do, and I met you at Gamescom in Germany, and yeah, at what point from making the comic to a video game, because that's a whole other like medium and everything. How did that come about, and where are you with it?
Uh, so like, uh, it's hard to explain where it came about, but I obviously know that it was my. So yeah, I had my passions for comics, and then I kind of love video games. I mean, who doesn't? Like, I love point and clicks. It was my childhood. Um, and I remember as a kid, I remember even getting like a shoebox and creating like my point and click with like
Right.
molding stuff. I don't even know. I mean, I love point and clicks and the format and stuff. And it came about when I was living in London, actually. I freshly came from the US, and it was during the first 6 months. I think it was 5 months that I didn't get a job because I was, I just graduated a year before, and it was hard to get a job, at least for me, just coming from another
Yeah, yeah.
country and
That's yeah.
coming. But during that time, the hardest part of coming and changing countries for me, besides the culture, obviously, it was that I missed my friends in the US. I had really good friends there, and one of which was a programmer, and we had done some program stuff before, even a small game. And I thought, I'm going to kind of lose this touch with him. And what if I did this video game with him, and we could just keep working online and stuff? So the idea kind of came to do that with him. But then my brain started racing, and I remember waking up with this in my head, like, oh, that's a brilliant idea, actually. Let's do that. And my partner at the time, like woke up one morning and saw me just sketching everything I could. In the end, my partner said, "Hey, you do it. Didn't participate, and I'm happy
As
for him."
you do the whole game.
Struggle, and I did the whole game except the music and sounds. But yeah. He found me a plugin. Like, he kind of went online and said, "Hey, just use this plugin." That's it. So he did help me a lot. He loved the game and stuff. But the origins were those. Like, hey, I was stressed of looking for jobs. And I have to say too, the comic strip was also coming from using the computer too much. I was not able to get sick of all the pain and the stress of how hard animation is. And I kind of didn't want to lose my touch on the pen and ink. So that's also,
Yeah, no, that's cool. I've just been showing the trailer as well, and just seeing how, like I said, it stood out to me because of the the comic style and everything, and it's wild that because it sounds like you almost like you just did it for you, so like to connect with your friend as you move countries, and then it's
actually,
coming to this whole
100%,
thing.
100%. It wasn't. Yeah, when you met us in Gamescom last year, it had been a few months that we started going serious about it because I did the game for myself for a long time until Federico, the producer, who you also met,
Yeah.
He kind of saw the game, and he was the first one around, because around me there's not a lot of. I'm sorry if I told this story on the last stream, but there wasn't a lot of people around me who played this kind of video games. So when he saw it, he said, "Hey, this is awesome." And sometimes as artists, we kind of just need that reinforcement of seeing that, okay, I'm not really alone. Like, oh, well, you like this? Are you sure? And then it kind of grew, but then he helped me find a composer, and then I got some sound designers, and we've been working since. It's just hard because having regular jobs, you have to do it after work, and it's kind of a bummer. But I think that's seeing the industry these days. I think that's going to change soon. I'm just going to be permanently doing this. soon. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I also have to note, and I have to say that sometimes retrospectively, that's how you see how something started. But when it starts, you kind of have a part that says, hey, you are being too egocentric and egomaniac, like you're not going to do this video game or you're not going to do these comics, so it's always a struggle between, you who
Right.
want to show these comics. But what's helped me in the end, it's knowing, okay, can I do comics that my kids will see or my cousins or, somebody next to me, like not thinking, oh, I want to get famous with this, which is never going to happen. But
Yeah.
not once you stop thinking how big you want to get and you think, hey, I just want to do this so people around me like it. I think that's also worked a lot.
I feel that. And I think that's an important thing to mention because for like we work with like young people and just talking to people, aspiring creators and everything. And I just feel looking at my own journey and just if I wanted to start this at the beginning and be like, I just want to be famous and make a ton of money, I would have stopped
Exactly.
like many years ago. And that's not to say you can get like certain things, but I think anything like that comes from first and foremost like enjoying it, doing it to the best of your ability, and just be happy with that. And
Correct.
if nothing else, like everything else is a bonus.
And if I need to add something to that too, is that what you're saying is it's very valid, and I forgot to mention, which is something very important and something I was lucky with the comic strips. It's a format that forces me to just put it out, and even if I'm not 100% happy with it, it's there. And I think that's true with a lot of comics. Like comics don't have to be perfect, and I think that's why we love them. Is because if you're not very picky and you just want to throw across an idea, you just do it. And if the drawing is not that good, at least it has an expression, it has an intention. And by just having this little format, it's just practice. And I didn't have to, because when sometimes, and this, when we're trying to be very strict or we want to be a perfectionist, we don't finish something because we have this idea of how good it's going to be, and that keeps us from starting. And I think that's what helped me with the comic strips. Because if they were bad, I just hide this one. This one, this other one is good, and that's what I did with the books. There were so many bad ones that they're not there, and that's it.
Yeah,
so
no, I totally,
same with the
totally
notebooks.
agree. Yeah. No, I think that's the way. So, yeah, no, it's just cool that you've got like the comic and the game like working together. So, yeah, I hope that. Do you have I was gonna say, do you have a date on when that's coming out? But do you have a window or what, a year even? Not to put any pressure on you.
We want to do it in 1 year. I think we can do it. However, there might be. We have to be conscious. Is our first game. Is of something might come up, accidents might happen. We're making sure that we back everything. But I think we are at the point where we're okay if it gets delayed, because
I mean they just delayed GTA,
right.
so if they had to delay
exactly.
the game,
exactly.
you can
So,
you can wait.
To me, I want to get it out as fast as I can, because I just want to go back to comics. But it is true that we're getting to a quality now, and we're polishing the first act, and it's so good that to get the second act to be as good, it will require time. But I think if I quit my job, for example, and do 8 hours a day, it's going to be awesome. So we'll see. I think next year.
Okay.
It should be coming next year. If not April, then December.
Yeah.
But who knows? Please,
for
people watching, if it's 27, don't get mad. But
Well, I mean, like I said before, when it does get finished and you're closer to that, then you're welcome to come back on and we can talk more about the game specifically. Yeah. So we're almost out of time. But one of the things I like to do for these live streams is like a bonus quick fire or quick-ish fire bonus round where I ask a last handful of questions, and it's all around the idea of us being the main characters in our own stories, like in real life, because I'm quite fascinated how like storytelling maps onto real life in that sense. So, as the main character, the protagonist of your story, what would be your standout attributes, characteristics, qualities?
Ooh, that's a good question. I get good intentions, I guess. I don't know, like
Okay.
somebody who messes up by trying to be good, and
Yeah.
then ends up like doing wrong to somebody else by, or like being perceived
Okay.
as not doing the right thing,
The
but
right thing. Tries to do
just
good, but
being,
maybe
yeah,
messes up.
clumsy. Yeah, clumsy. Yeah, when, yeah, I think so. Clumsy but good,
Okay.
I guess.
I get that. I get that. Um,
Yours?
oh, no, it's not about me. It's not about me. This is all. This is all
Okay,
for you.
I thought
Yeah,
it was
yeah. No, no,
okay.
no,
Okay,
no, no. It's
okay,
all
all for me.
for me. Yeah, all for you. All for you. So, all right, cool. We got our protagonist then, and then, in a story, you have your antagonist or your forces of antagonism. So, in your story, what would you say is your main challenge, and how do you work to overcome it?
Wait, so sorry, who would be my antagonist? You said, or who
Yeah,
would,
yeah.
or what would? I guess my antagonist would be.
Who or what?
I think that it's always the government, Nigel. Always all the government. Yeah, yeah. Like I think whatever's happening in the world would be the antagonist,
Yeah.
and and trying to, like what you mentioned before, like trying to convince people to change their minds, be open minded, not see being open minded as a bad thing, not see being open minded as the equal, as the other side. It's like, oh, equality is the same. You guys are extremists in the same
Right. I
balance, and
see.
it's, I don't know, trying to fight people's brainwashing. Like I feel like we have all these pop culture icons, movies and stuff that reflect that. I think we all have the same fear, like being left out, and everybody gets brainwashed except us, and we have to run. I think that would kind of be the same thing,
Right.
because it's feeling isolated and not feeling um, accepted is kind of the worst feeling you can have. So I think my protagonist would fight that in order to help people, but also feel bad about the people who are doing wrong and trying to help them, but then
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
somebody who knowingly knows they're doing bad, and then just, okay, we'll kill you, and that's it. I don't know. I don't know. We put you, because
Put
I
you
don't believe
away
in jails either,
somehow.
so I don't know what we would do. We would either convince them, or
Or
I
end
don't know.
them.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Um, all right. What would then? Because you get a story, you get your protagonist, and there's like a supporting cast. So who would be the biggest supporting characters on your journey?
Oh, that is a good question. I I don't know. The Muppets. I would like to have it as a Muppets. Like just me and Muppets who
Yeah,
are
yeah.
funny,
Any specific Muppet?
like a Muppet movie.
Yeah.
All of them. I love. I
All of
love
them. Okay, get all
Elmo.
of them.
Well, Elmo's not a Muppet, but I like Elmo, and I like, obviously, Kermit and Enzo.
Oh
Henzo?
yeah.
What's the one with the nose that looks
Yeah,
like
yeah.
me?
It's
That could actually be the storyline. It's just we
duo.
are cousins. Yeah, and we have a similar nose.
Yeah. I like that. That's the whole narrative, and in I feel any good story, any good protagonist has some kind of goal that they're reaching for, that they're striving for over the story. So in your story, where does your journey go? What does success look like for you?
I I think what I was saying before, it would be the same. It's like convincing people without having to show them. Like a better world can be done, um, and then we achieve that. It's sort of, I don't know if you heard, but a couple weeks or a week ago, we had this, what do you call it, a blackout. We had like
Oh
all
yeah,
the
the
lights
power.
went
Yeah,
out
yeah.
in Spain and
Spain and
Portugal.
Portugal.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and it was only what, 12 hours. It was only 12 hours, but people
yeah. It
were
was madness.
went crazy. It was madness. But over here, because we're in the Pyrenees, it was just, first of all, we didn't even realize for a while. And then when we talked to each other with other neighbors, which are far away, then, I think it's all the country or other countries. And then, okay, then what was the first thing, at least I did, or we did, when we found out that it was all state-wise, you went on and check on your neighbors. And I think that's solidarity is the future. And I think if something that my protagonist has to achieve is this point where we all go back to anarchism and we win. And that's all you can say. And we abolish governments and yeah, there's no more rich. I don't know. What else? I mean, what would be better than that?
Yeah.
I think that would be it.
It'd be a lot easier in a lot of ways. Yeah, I feel that. But yeah, that's it. That's the end of the interview. And one last thing, like, where, if people are interested in like your work, the comic, the game, like, where can people find you online?
All right. So the game is easy. For the game, you can look up Jordi and Oslo on Steam, and it's going to get you into the Steam page, and you can wishlist it. We're going to do a Kickstarter soon.
Oh, nice.
And we will be able to quick start, because it's going to help us with translating into other languages. We want to have it adapted to English and German, and if we can, Italian. And then for the comics, it's another story, because as you know, as an artist, I'm really bad at updating things, and the website hasn't been updated with the English. My friend Josh actually helped me set up the website to have English and Catalan and Spanish, but I haven't done the work of translating all my comic strips yet, which I'm kind of ashamed. But the website would be just jordioslo.com. However, the Instagram is also, the Instagram and all the networks that people use would be Jordi Oslo Comics. And then if you are in Mastodon or any open source networks, then social networks, then you can find me on as the same name, Jordi Oslo Comics. But Mastodon works different, so I don't know how they find me. Mastodon.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah.
That cat. But anyway, it might be on the other social networks.
Okay.
And I promise, if people ask me for it, and if you're like, oh, it's not in English enough, then just push me.
Just bug you
I
until
dare,
you do it.
Bring the audience, and then I promise I'll deliver. I'll translate stuff, because some of them are funny in both languages. Some of them are not, but I'll try my best.
That's fair.
Thank you again, Nigel.
Yeah, no, thank you, and thank you to people watching, either now on VOD, or we're gonna clip this as well. Speaking of websites, because we're redoing our website, and it's something I first, because we hadn't updated the website for years, and then a couple years ago I decided to redo the website, and then a couple years later I still hadn't been done, so we're only just doing it. So I totally feel you. But
does it happen to you that you remember, you damn yourself every time that you see, you get fine. Well, you get the payment for the website. It's little money, but every month you paid for this website that you then use. Oh no, I should pay it.
Yeah, or even because for us we had, because the shop on our website was broken, and now it's completely down. But even stuff like that, you remember that, it's before it got broken, and then it was a bit not usable, and it's gotta fix that as well. It just piles up, and then eventually you gotta do it. But so we're working on that. I feel your pain, so look out for some new websites at some point in the future. But keep us updated on the game as well. So thank you for spending time. And then just to say, shout out, always want to shout out Pro Gamers Group UK, who have supported us, or have been supporting us by providing equipment, so lighting. The microphone that I'm speaking on is all Streamplify. The chair I'm sitting on, Nitro Concept chairs, very comfy as well. So we use these for our live streams, but also for our events and workshops as well. So really handy in helping us just make a better live stream and allow us to capture stuff at events, and as we continue that push for diversity and inclusion in games and creative industries, and introducing like young people to the concept of content creation. So thank you for their support. But that's us. So feel free to follow us on Twitch, so you don't miss another Casual Conversations with comic creators live stream. We also do another bunch of shows on Twitch, now on YouTube, because I think I've just about figured out how to also do that live on YouTube as well. Join our Discord so you can chat. Is a whole kind of thing. Actually, to be fair, it was relatively easy. I just need to pay attention to certain things. So yeah, watch us on Twitch or YouTube. And we also have a podcast. So for those that don't know, we do the Story X Story podcast, where Tazia and I have created interviews like these, video game discussions and deep dives into stories across pop culture. So there's lots of ways to find us, reach out, chat, check out the content and the guests that we have. But for now, that has been an episode of Casual Conversations with Comic Creators. We will see you again next week. Well, probably next week on something, but this episode, this show, next month. So take care, everyone.